Hello and welcome. You're watching NDTV 24/7. I'm Sonal Mirotra Kapura. Top story tonight. China lost 42 soldiers in June 2020 Galwan Valley clash, at least 9 times more than the 4 it had acknowledged. That's a report quoted by the Australian newspaper The Klaxon. Now, the investigation piece by Anthony Clan, the editor of the paper, is based on the work of a group of social media researchers who have been able to unearth a sustained effort by the Chinese officials to bury the truth on what really happened in the Galwan Valley. Remember, India lost 20 soldiers. The number was officially acknowledged, but there have always been questions on whether the casualty count announced by China of just 4 people killed in action was accurate at all.
This report in the Australian investigative newspaper The Klaxon makes the claim that 38 Chinese soldiers were washed away and killed during the Galwan clashes of 2020. Many Chinese soldiers, you write, were killed while attempting to cross back over the fast-flowing Galwan River in the early stages of June 15th and 16th battle. What is this based on? Is this, because this is the critical bit, what is this based on? Is it based on conversations that you have had or stuff which you have seen which has been deleted from Chinese social media, first-hand accounts? What exactly?
Yeah, so it's first-hand accounts that's been deleted from Chinese social media. One count in particular involves a first-hand account of someone who attended a funeral of one of the people that died. Now, it's worth remembering that only one of the 4 soldiers that China has admitted died in the battle was drowned.
The report comes at a time when China's decision to make one of their Galwan officers a torch-bearer at the Winter Olympics has met with this response from New Delhi.
I wish to inform that our chargé d'affaires of the Embassy of India in Beijing will not be attending the opening or the closing ceremony of the Beijing 22 Winter Olympics.
What's more, Doordarshan will not live telecast the opening and closing ceremonies of the Games. The CEO of Prasar Bharati tweeting, consequent to the announcement by the External Affairs Ministry, Doordarshan Sports will not telecast live the opening and closing ceremonies of the Winter Olympics being held in Beijing. What remains clear is that several unanswered questions remain on just what happened in Galwan. If, for example, so many Chinese soldiers were washed away, did any of their bodies end up in areas held by the Indian Army from where they were retrieved? The Klaxon says they have a second story coming up in a few days. For now, though, at so many levels, the word Galwan remains a source of tension between India and China. Vishnu Shobh for NDTV.
All right, let's give you all the details regarding COVID now. The positivity rate in the past 24 hours has gone up to about 11% now. Cases are also up. Deaths are down, however, 41.83% over there. The positivity rate, well, that's also up. And the tests have actually come down. Vaccinations have also come down by 8%. But overall, there seems to be some good news coming in. How? Because the government today said that the worst of India's third wave is now over, saying that the third wave peak is no longer as high as they expected and lower, in fact, than the second wave as well. In fact, the ministry also said that surgeries can now go ahead, as no more is there a higher risk of mortality related to those.
The Health Ministry today all but declared the peak of the third wave has passed and that it was lower than the second wave.
हम अगर देखें कि जहां हमारे यहाँ 21 जनवरी को एक हाईएस्ट नंबर ऑफ केसेस जो कि इस सर्च के समय पे नोट किया गया था, तब 3,47,000 केसेस आए थे। यह पिछली जो हमारी सर्च थी उसकी तुलना में, जो कि 4,14,000 केसेस की थी 7 मई के समय में पिछले वर्ष, उसके तुलना में कुछ कम है।
At its peak, the third wave saw 3.47 lakh cases on 21st January, less than the over 4 lakh cases in early May last year. Now, cases are declining and the positivity rate has fallen from a peak of almost 21% to 13%. Only 2 states are still showing an increase in cases and test positivity, Kerala and Mizoram. The number of districts with positivity rates of over 10% has come down sharply, by a third compared to a week ago. However, India's battle against COVID is far from over, with experts warning against new variants emerging, and the need to ensure that all eligible people are fully vaccinated. Dr. Reddy of the Apollo Hospitals Group responded to a Times of India report that 50 lakh vaccines may go waste by the end of this month, saying that the government should allow boosters for anyone willing, even if they're under 60 years of age. That's the current limit.
The worst of this wave has passed. That's what the government seems to be saying. But this good news is marred by the certainty that there are more variants to come. And we need to be prepared for that. With Azam Siddiqui, Meher Pandey for NDTV.
Meanwhile, schools in Delhi continue to remain shut due to COVID-induced pandemic, which has had a severe impact on the poor, especially children of daily wage workers who haven't been able to afford online education at all. Civil society and individuals are coming forward now to help them regain some structure in their life. Here's a report.
मेरा नाम जानवी है। लाइट चली जाती है या फिर नेटवर्क नहीं आता, फिर कभी कभार फोन भी गिर जाता है, तो वो फिर दुकान में बहुत पैसे लगते हैं उसमें बनाने की। ऑनलाइन क्लास में मैम कुछ ना कुछ भेजते, कभी कभार भेजते, कभी कभार नहीं भेजती है। मैम बोलती है कि बच्चे को मत लेके आओ स्कूल में, और कभी कभार मैम बोलती है कि बच्चे को स्कूल में ले आओ, अब बुक खत्म हो गई है।
Many like Janvi and Muskan, children of daily wage workers, are in a Delhi government school which has remained shut for nearly 2 years. They say they can no longer afford online education. For Meena, online education for 3 daughters is a challenge.
मैम बच्चे पढ़ नहीं पाते हैं ना ऑनलाइन पे। मैम बोलती कुछ बच्चे सुनते, कुछ आधा काम करते आधा कर नहीं पाते हैं, तो परेशानी है बच्चे के लिए, बहुत परेशानी है। घर में तंग करते हैं, काम नहीं करते हैं, बोलती बाबू काम कर, बोलता नहीं करना है, मैं समझ नहीं पाती हूँ, क्या करूँ, अपने आप से नहीं कर पाती हूँ, ऐसे बच्चे बोलते रहते हैं। मैम
स्कूल जाना है, वापस स्कूल खुलने चाहिए, ऑनलाइन नहीं हो पा रहा आपसे, नहीं वो क्यों नहीं हो पा रहा, क्या हो रहा है, क्या दिक्कत हो रही है?
नेटवर्क का
दिक्कत हो रहा है।
Schools in Delhi have been closed, making it one of the longest mass school closures in the country, even though across India, several states have opened schools.
There is enough scientific and epidemiological evidence to argue that schools are safe for in-person classes for all age group of children. What we know, the loss of learning and also future growth and development, learning loss is going to be more for the children who are the least risk, the children from the poorest and lower socioeconomic strata.
To address this, the finance minister in her budget speech announced that 200 TV channels will be set up for classroom learning.
Due to the pandemic-induced closure of schools, our children, particularly in the rural areas and those from scheduled castes and scheduled tribes and other weaker sections, have lost almost 2 years of formal education. For this purpose, One Class, One TV channel program of PM E-Vidya will be expanded from 12 to 200 TV channels.
Connectivity remains a basic problem not just for rural India but for the urban poor as well.
मोबाइल रिचार्ज करने के लिए पैसे वैसे भरने का वो भी दिक्कत होते हैं। घर में एक ही फोन रहता है जो मेरे पास रहते हैं। आप जिस टाइम उनका क्लास होता है उस टाइम मेरे फोन काम पे लेके चले आता हूँ मैं, तो ये सब में बहुत दिक्कत होता है।
If schools in Delhi don't reopen now, experts suggest that this will have a huge learning loss impact, especially on the underprivileged. Meanwhile, the government has announced its expansion of its e-learning scheme via 200 TV channels. But basics such as a mobile phone and internet connectivity remain a far-fetched dream for much of young India. In Delhi, Shonakshi Chakravarti for NDTV.
And it was a day of multiple rallies, multiple leaders going out and campaigning as well, from Amit Shah to Mayawati to Arvind Kejriwal to several other leaders as well. Akhilesh also held a press conference there along with the RLD chief over there.
हमने हमारी पूरी तैयारी हो गई थी, जेवर एयरपोर्ट बनाने का भी, एविएशन हब का भी, और ये बलिया तक 8 लेन की जो गंगा एक्सप्रेस वे वो भी, सब पूरी तैयारी हो गई थी, पूरा प्रारूप तैयार हो गया था। लेकिन इनकी पूरी तैयारी के बावजूद भी उस समय केंद्र में कांग्रेस पार्टी पावर में थी। हमने उधर फाइल भेजी, लेकिन कांग्रेस ने उसमें अड़ंगा लगाकर तो इन कामों को नहीं होने दिया। हमारी पार्टी जब सत्ता से बाहर हो गई, उसके बाद सपा पावर में आई, बीजेपी पावर में आई। 1 दशक बाद इन महत्वाकांक्षी योजनाओं का शिलान्यास हुआ है, केवल शिलान्यास हुआ है, जबकि विकास के ऐसे कामों को समय से शुरू होकर अब तक पूरा भी हो जाना चाहिए था।
बहन जी, जरा उत्तर प्रदेश की जनता को बताइए, आपके समय में विकास के काम क्यों नहीं होते? अखिलेश बाबू, पूरा उत्तर प्रदेश आज भी नहीं भूला है किस प्रकार से निर्दोष कार सेवकों पर गोली चलाकर उनके मृतदेहों को गोमती में डालने का काम आपकी सरकार ने किया था।
All right. Meanwhile, another incident that caught attention today was an alleged attack on Mr. Owaisi's convoy. The AIMIM leader, Asauddin Owaisi, had alleged that shots were fired at his car when he was returning from Meerut after a campaign there in Uttar Pradesh, Western Belt over there, back to the national capital. No one was injured, he said, but his car's tire were punctured. He had to then shift to another car and get back here. What you do see very clearly in those visuals are bullet marks, at least 2 of them over there. One man has now been arrested and the police is investigating the case.
हमारी इलेक्शन कमीशन ऑफ इंडिया से ये गुजारिश है कि इसकी इंडिपेंडेंट जांच करवाई जाए और ये कौन है लोग, किसका दिमाग है इसके पीछे और आखिर क्यों ये हमला हुआ, किसने ये कॉन्स्पिरेसी की, ये जानना बेहद जरूरी है। आखिर ऐसे कैसे हो सकता है कि टोल गेट के ऊपर ये लोग 4-4 राउंड फायरिंग एक सिटिंग एमपी के ऊपर करते हैं। हम तो अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह कुछ नहीं हुआ, हमको खैरियत से है, मगर अल्लाह बचाना जब चाहता है तो कोई कुछ नहीं कर सकता।
Meanwhile, the Congress party is all set to make a big announcement on the 6th of February, which is the coming Sunday, where Rahul Gandhi is expected to be in Ludhiana and finally announce who will be the Congress's chief minister face in the upcoming polls. Will it be Mr. Channi? Will it be Mr. Sidhu? It's been a close contest, and at the moment, Congress party has also launched a tele-voting contest asking people to vote and say who do they prefer. Meanwhile, this picture is of Navjot Singh Sidhu as he went on a Vaishno Devi darshan right before the announcement as well. But Arvind Kejriwal, another key player in Punjab, now saying why was Mr. Jhakar's name not included over there. So Congress at the moment, the biggest fight for them at this time is to choose which way to go and whose face should they project. Tamil Nadu Governor Arun Ravi has returned the state government an assembly bill seeking exemption of the state from the National Entrance Cum Eligibility Test, or the NEET as it's popularly called, saying it went against the interest of rural and economically poor students. Now, the state assembly had passed the bill in September last year, saying the exam favours affluent classes who can afford private coaching. Tamil Nadu MPs, meanwhile, in protest, walked out of Parliament today. All right, news from Karnataka now, where students stopped at the second Karnataka college over wearing hijabs. The students stood at the gates for 6 hours until the classes ended. And here's a wrap on what exactly transpired there.
Hijab protests now in a second college in Karnataka's Udupi district. Around 20 students of a government college in Kundapur, a coastal town, were stopped at the gates by the principal. These students waited for over 6 hours outside the gate, firm on their stand that they should be allowed to attend classes wearing a hijab. Not just the college administration, but the district in charge minister and home minister said that the students should follow the uniform dress code. Not one, but 3 ministers have weighed in against the students, even calling it a nuisance.
ಜಿಲ್ಲಾಡಳಿತದ ನಾನು ಚರ್ಚೆಯನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ತೇನೆ. ಚರ್ಚೆ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಒಂದು ನಾನು ಮಾಧ್ಯಮದ ಮೂಲಕ ಇಷ್ಟಪಡುವಂಥದ್ದು, ಒಂದೊಂದು ಶಾಲೆಗೆ ಒಂದೊಂದು ರೀತಿಯ ನಿಯಮವನ್ನು ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅಕಸ್ಮಾತ್ ಆ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಏನು ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ಕೈಗೊಳ್ಳಬೇಕು ಅದರ ಬಗ್ಗೆನೂ ಕೂಡ ಖಂಡಿತವಾಗಿ ಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ಕೈಗೊಳ್ಳುವಂಥ ಕೆಲಸವನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ. ಆದರೆ ನಾನು ಸಾರ್ವಜನಿಕವಾಗಿ ಮತ್ತು ಎಲ್ಲ ಶಾಲೆಯ ಮುಖ್ಯಸ್ಥರಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂಡ ವಿನಂತಿಯನ್ನು ಮಾಡುವಂಥದ್ದು, ಈ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡುವಂಥದ್ದು ಯಾವತ್ತೂ ಕೂಡ ಸರಿಯಲ್ಲ. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಾಲಕ್ಕೆ ಒಬ್ಬೊಬ್ಬರು ಒಂದೊಂದು ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಹೋದರೆ ಒಂದು ನಿಯಮವನ್ನು ಮಾಡಲೇಬೇಕಾಗ್ತದೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ತಜ್ಞರ ಸಮಿತಿ ಇದೆ.
ಬಿಡದೆ ಹೋದರೆ, ಒಂದು ವಿಶಾಲ ಮನೋಭಾವನೆಯಿಂದ ತೋರಿಸದೆ ಹೋದರೆ ತುಂಬ ಕಷ್ಟ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ನಮ್ಮ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ಸಚಿವರು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಯಾವುದು ಆ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆ ನಿರ್ಧರಿಸುತ್ತೋ ಆ ಯೂನಿಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಮಕ್ಕಳಿಗೂ ಕಡ್ಡಾಯ. ಅದು ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಬೇರೆ ಯಾವುದೋ ಬಣ್ಣ ವೇಷ ಇಲ್ಲ.
Definitely this becomes a nuisance even in other colleges. Clearly government took a stand that whatever the SDMC has followed and the students and parents who had accepted whatever the condition led by SDMC has to be followed till we get the report of the committee. This problem has started only for the last 20 days. They are not very.
This is the third such incident that is being reported from the state, the other one being in Shivamogga district. In the first incident, 8 students were not allowed to attend classes for more than a month. With Srija in Bengaluru, Bureau Report, NDTV.